JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Super Formula 23 Be Open Series right here live on VSPEED. Brought to you in part by Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you are searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by the Graham Crackers Racing Discord server where everybody is welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. We are actively recruiting for both of our Super Formula 23 teams and NASCAR teams. Join by using the link in the description below. And while you're there, don't forget to check out Race Ready 3D's link as well. A big thank you to everybody at the SimRacingNation.com behind the scenes party for making this possible for us here on VSPEED. I'm your host, Logan Threlkeld, and of course, taking the controls in the production truck, and as our co-host, Bradley Cooper. With cameras provided by Dougie Beard, we have found our way here in the States, in Miami International Autodrome for the Grand Prix layout, and it is going to be a very interesting race here. 19 corners, 22 laps on the board. It is a very fast, but yet still very technical track. So we bring up the track map here for on the screen. 3.36 miles around this circuit. A little bit of elevation change, not a whole lot by any means. A very flat circuit. And of course, we show 16 corners. I believe it's 19 corners by my count. Opened up back in May of 2022. So a very new track to the iRacing service as well. Bradley, what are you thinking about today's event?
It's going to be very similar to a street course with how flat this place is. And being, like you said, no elevation changes. It's going to be similar to places like Chicago street course and where we were there just a week ago. And I think for these drivers, it's going to be a matter of patience. Again, we're going to have more overtaking opportunities here. There's long sweeping corners, but those long straightaways, you're going to get a lot of speed. There's going to be plenty of passing opportunities. You don't want to be on the wrong side of things, though, when you do come down those long straights.
And to make things more interesting, a lot of new names in the field today as we have a lot of participation in the iRacing Daytona 24. And we're missing a couple names out here. We'll bring up the current point situation for the series overall. Dennis Branch, Dan Yang, James Byrne, Rohan Sanier, Tobias Gerber all making up the top 5 right now. A lot of wins going in favor of the 4th place driver, Rohan Sanier, the most on the board. And then bringing up the broadcasted races. Here we go. James Byrne in the lead by 2 points. Timothy Fries-Larson taking up P2. Yansu Foster there in P3. Dennis Branch in P4. Dan Yang in P5. You can find all your favorite drivers out there, but we've got a grid to get through. And taking the pole on today's event will be the number 1 of Timothy Fries-Larson lined up next to the 3 of Jacob Reed. In row number 2, Gabriel Hopp next to Nadia Mel. In row number 3, it's the 2 of James Byrne lined up next to the 5 of Valerio Tavares. In 7th, it's Dennis Branch next to Dylan Baxter in the 11 for P8. In 9th, the 13 of Joan Bate next to the 6 of Dan Yang. Behind them in 11th, Benjamin David next to the 12 of Yelmi Buzar, I believe. I apologize for that one, number 12. We'll try to get that right. In 13th, Leandro Tercet next to the 19 of Vince Tamar. In P15, Jamie Byrne next to the 15 of Michael Dodd. As the lights are coming on, we'll let the rest of the grid roll through, but it's about to go green in Miami, and away we go for week number 5. Nearly 3 wide down into the first corner. A little bit on track issue here. That's the 7 of Nadia Mel. He gets back onto the track surface, and away goes Timothy Fries-Larson. Already a 2.5 seconds over a second-place driver, Gabriel Hopp. See who can work their way up close and give some competition there to the number 1 machine. Starting to single file out as we get to the middle section of this circuit. Still some side-by-side battling. A lot of passing opportunities will present themselves here as we've got to look to the inside. Side by side we go. Dan Yang trying to make some moves here early on. Dylan Baxter, 3 wide with them. Baxter gets the advantage. Dennis Branch, Dan Yang falling behind just 1 spot.
Problems in the back. I think that's Vocura in the 17 cannot get this car turned around. Damages it even more. He's done.
17 will be retired early on in this race. Back to the live action at the front of the field here. Timothy Fries-Larson down the long straight between turn 16 and turn 17. Hard braking zone. With a couple quick corners back to the front straight here for the completion of lap number 1. Timothy Fries-Larson in control, starting the race off with a 138.883 off of that start. He's nearly a full 2 seconds faster. Yeah. He is a full 2 seconds faster than the rest of the field on the first lap.
Yeah, so I was worried.
He's already showing.
I was worried if you let Larson get out front, he's going to pull away. He needs some competition on the inside or outside going into turn 1 to kind of pin him back in this field. And we saw that last week. It took him a while to get around. This week, it looks like smooth sailing. And based off the pace that he's already had in these first 2 or 3 laps, I think he's going to run away with this one.
Certainly has that potential. Some other names still in the field here that can get up there. It all depends on how that setup is going to be built. If it's short run or long run, we haven't seen Timothy Fries-Larson really have the short run capabilities here. So it looks like his setup might be just a touch different from what we typically see See, very fast section right there. The switchback left-right, almost chicane-like under the bridge.
Made a little mistake there, hit the rumble strips. It threw him off of his line for the next corner. So he had to take it a little bit more shallow on the entry. You see how much ground you lose. That's setting up for this straightaway, so you don't want to make a mistake through that section.
That's Nadia Mel looking for position. Jacob Reed battling with him. They get it sorted out, turning into turn 17, and a little bit more off track behind now. Leandro Tercet involved. Doesn't look like any damage to the 22 machine.
He's going to bring it into the
He
pits.
is going to bring it right down pit road, so a little bit of damage that we do not see.
This just looked like he cut in, didn't know the 13 was to his left. And Trent Bodie just get the tank slap there. And the 22, of course, we saw last week how fragile these cars can be, so a touch like that, it was a pretty good lick, and it probably got him close to a meatball. He probably couldn't steer that car.
Totally damaged potentially on the 22. He does get it repaired. He's working his way back out onto the track now, sporting that Graham Crackers Racing paint scheme on the 22 machine today.
Second place. Contact again.
You could throw a blanket over our second through fifth place drivers, James Byrne, Gabriel Hopp, Jacob Reed, Nadia Mel. They're only separated by about a second here, which on screen it doesn't look like it'd be nearly that much. Valerio Tavares enjoying what he's seeing. He's closing up that gap to Nadia Mel. So throw that number 5 back in the mix here for a podium finish. He's not far out.
From second all the way back to around 7th position, all within arm's reach of each other. You're going to see another.
It looked like maybe a little bit of contact there, but not much at all. Hop had a great look to the inside setting up in that corner. James Byrne able to hold on to it. Apologize for cutting you off there, Bradley, but that was a well-timed move.
Byrne able to defend. Reed in 4th position. Amel has caught up to this, and quick gang in that mix as well. About 1.3 seconds back, but last time by, gained a 10th on all of these drivers in front of them. If they continue to run like this, I would expect the 7th place driver to be in the hunt as well.
Gang is a great driver in the sense of biding his time until the opportunity is right there. And seeing this battle as we've got Gabriel Hopp taking another run here to the outside this time. Will he get the switchback complete? No, ends up on the curbing. Falls back behind James Byrne. Byrne doing a fantastic job of defending his position right now. As we take a look on board with Gabriel Hopp. This is a very tough section of the course, but we're going to open it up to the longest straight here.
Oh, he got loose. Wheel spin there. That's going to allow Jacob Reed into the picture now. And you see Hopp trying to bail himself out with some push to pass to get back up on that, but
back just outside of the top 10, Vince Tamar able to get around the 16.
Oh, goodness. And they got a car sideways
in the corner.
It's Baxter.
That's going to stack up a lot of drivers, a lot of avoidance happening here. Trying to wait for the track to open up so he can rejoin the field here. But Baxter's going to fall all the way back to the 20th position after that incident. Take it back here on the VSPEED instant replay. Have a look at what has happened to the number 11 car. Potentially contact made, sending him around.
There's the issue with Hopp there.
Hopp stays out wide, doesn't really put any other drivers at risk in that sector. Hard on the brakes, doesn't make contact with Baxter there. But of course, facing the right direction on the track, able to rejoin quickly. And just looks like a quick lockup there from the 11 machine. Great avoidance from behind as well.
There's cars everywhere through that portion of the racetrack, and it's kind of a blind corner where he was sitting. 6 seconds already, Logan. That's a massive lead. Timothy Fries Larson has checked out. I was worried about this. I mentioned it. Short run pace definitely there. And if you look at the push to pass, this guy's had really no reason to use it. He's just out here cruising.
There was a big incident with the 4 of Dennis Branch and the 9 of Benjamin David making their way down into turn 1. David took a look to the inside and unfortunately locked him up, got into the side of Dennis Branch, and that collects both cars. They will both have that meatball flag and out of this race. Back on the VSPEED instant replay once again. We'll have a look here. It's a battle behind Branch. He's out wide here.
Oh
Man. Maybe not a lockup, rather, just not quite the line that you would typically take through turn 1. A valiant effort from Benjamin David, but you see the car behind.
Yeah, he wasn't making that turn. It's just not going to make that turn.
Back up at the front of the field. The battle is still on for that second place position. Timothy Fries Larson well in control by 5.5 seconds now. So working their way through turn 18 and 19 back to the front stretch here. We've got a little bit of separation through that top 6 now. Gabriel Hopp still being very competitive in that 6th spot, just behind Valerio Tavares. Dan Yang just a little bit further behind. Tavares all over that rear spoiler of the 2 of James Byrne. It's going to boil down to who has the most OTS, I believe, in the last few laps of this race. That button is going to be very viable here in about 10 laps or so, I would assume.
You can see there with Tavares using it down the front stretch. If Hop can stay in that slipstream and ride that, he doesn't have to burn as much of his. Now, he will lose a little bit of ground, but usually on the corner entry, he's going to gain back because Tavares has to shut that off.
Shut it off, get harder on the brakes to slow this car down, cutting through the inside a little bit there. That might have been a track limitations violation on Gabriel Hopp. I'm not too familiar with the track limits here at Miami International. But this onboard view, just how sophisticated and fast this track is. These sectors are so quick, turning lap times now in the 135 bracket for these drivers. And that is actually going to be faster than our race leader, Timothy Fries Larson. A 136.009 for Larson. Second place, Jacob Reed beating him by 0.4 of a second on the fastest lap. Hopping over the curb goes the driver in front, Valerio Tavares. I don't know how he was able to recollect that and keep it straight on the track. All 4 tires completely off the track surface.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot here where guys are cutting that portion of the racetrack, and if you do it wrong, the car's going to leave the ground. And you can see there, it's going to allow Hop to get the pass. Tavares is just happy that he still has 4 tires on this thing.
A very hard hit and completely unsettling the suspension of these cars. As the last thing that you really want to do, but you know, these drivers know way better than I would about where the fast line is. That could very well be it. His last time by, Tavares, a 136.804. So still a quick lap time. Hop beat him by 0.6 of a second. I would say that's probably through that section. And then, of course, down the backstretch, using that slipstream off of the back of the 5.
I want to see what Larson's doing differently than these guys, though. I'm trying to figure this out because, again, he hasn't used any push to pass at all. He's been cruising around and at will seems to match the lap times of Jacob Reed and Nani Amel. These guys that are running the 135s, yeah, it just seems like he's a little bit smoother through this portion of the racetrack, and it might be why, because he's setting up this straightaway so well.
Smooth is fast when it comes to technicality. Timothy Fries Larson, a master at it. Gabriel Hopp having issues. He drops 2 positions.
I wonder if he had problems back in that curb area again. Let's back this up a little bit more. I want to guess that he hit the curb and spun this car.
I have to say you're probably, right through it and completely sideways, able to keep it off both of the walls there. Very tight section of the track. Dan Yang, Valerio Tavares able to recognize that, get around safely. Yang finally gaining that extra position that he's been hunting for the last 5 laps. It's going to give a lot of room there off of the rear wing. About a second and a half now until Gabriel Hopp is back in the picture. There is a battle outside of the top 10 I'd like to bring the cameras to, with Dylan Baxter, Sandro Trillis for 15th. They are closing in on Christian Jasper for 14th. Very close battle back here. Looks like Baxter taking a look to the inside, set up on the outside for the next corner, but able to hold the speed down. He will get clear of Christian Jasper. Fantastic sequence for Dylan Baxter there. Sandro Trillis not able to capitalize and follow the number 11. Baxter on the road to recovery here, down 6 positions from where he started. Early on incident set the 11 back, way back to the, I want to say, 20th position. So doing a great job of collecting those spots back up through attrition and passing. Jasper going to be trying to mitigate the damage here, up 4 spots from where they started. Sandro Trillis up 6 spots as well, one of the bigger movers of the race. That leaves the 14 and the 18 with 8 positions gained in P12 and P13. The top 2 have not moved since the start of this race, but the gaps have gotten bigger. Dan Yang able to collect some ground here on Valerio Tavares. Down now to just a half a second behind the number 5 machine. Michael Dodd within a half second of the 12 of Bizarre. Looking to make his way a little bit further into the top 10, holding the 10th spot at the current moment.
Ooh. Touch that curb a little bit. Dan Yang is seeing the ground that he's making up through that portion of the racetrack. He was a little bit faster than Tavares, but he clipped that curb and kind of undid it all. But he's going to get this speed. He's in the slipstream now down this long straightaway. He's going to get to the inside for the 5th spot. Well done.
Battles all throughout the field as we are now closing in on the halfway point of this race. Next time by will start lap number 11. As the battle makes its way to the backstretch once again. Yang trying to stay well ahead of Tavares, trying to break that trap. Tavares doing everything that they can to stay in it and closing the ground up here. Dan Yang with a couple extra maneuvers there, trying to break that draft. Tavares way later on the brakes, nearly pushes through the corner. I think that's going to allow that number 6 Yang to get a little bit better of a drive off of turn 17. But staying right in the draft, the slipstream. Valerio Tavares is back underneath the rear wing of the 6.
And I know we talked about it, that there might have been rain in the forecast. It's beautiful out here. Of course, we have the wet tire option. Nobody going to use it here. It's perfectly clear. 0% chance all the way through. Of course, Miami this time of year, I'd say it's usually pretty rainy, so these guys got lucky.
That they did. Just a beautiful overall setup for this race. 73 degrees ambient air temperature, 89 degrees on the track surface. So all of the grip that you could ask for these high downforce cars. As Dan Yang finally gets a look to the inside of Tavares, set him up perfectly, and Yang now up into the top 5.
Yeah, Yang got that. Tavares got back to him down the front stretch. And Tavares back into this as well. So they've went back and forth, and then you have Gabriel Hopp back into the picture in the 10 car. How about that?
Yeah, Hopp doing a great job to catch back up to the two drivers that were inadvertently let by from the spin off of the curbing. Nearly gets into the back of Tavares down into turn 17. And Hop is on full attack mode now. Not on the OTS, but able to utilize that slipstream and gets right around before we dive down into turn 1. Tavares back to P7, Hop up to P6.
So no explanation, and I want to assume that this is... I want to say it's the 9 of maybe David. I'm not sure who this is in the chat, but basically apologizing. Says no explanation for what happened. Of course, we had somebody else in the chat saying it looked like just a completely missed break point, and I'll agree with that. It just... When you're in the heat of the battle there, coming down the front stretch, you got a guy to your left-hand side, you're trying to defend that position, you try to overshoot the entry just a little bit, and then suddenly you overshoot it by a lot. It's what I would equate to a passenger landing a 747.
Interesting comparison there, but we're pretty separated out here now. Craig Christensen is starting to catch up to Dylan Baxter for P13. They're actually side by side right now. Let's see how this battle starts to formulate here. A little bit of contact working through turn 2.
Baxter got moved out of the way there, got put out wide. And he's going to lose it.
Now we'll have to wait for an opportunity. That was not turn 2 either. Apologize for that, but Baxter able to get it corrected. He's going to lose 2 more spots. Sandro Chirillis gets around. Christian Jasper gets around. Back to P16. So the number 11 still struggling to find that right line through that section. Continues to hit that curbing. It's proven to be dangerous time and time again. I want to bring attention to Jacob Reed here as well. He is not allowing Timothy Freeze-Larson to get out ahead nearly as far as you had originally thought there, Bradley. Larson was out by about 5.5 seconds at one point. Jacob Reed has brought it down to hovering right around the 4-second margin.
And it's Branch that was in the chat there. And yes, there's a little bit of a gap change here, but again, goes back to that push to pass. The OTS. Reed is using all of his. He's used half of it. Larson hasn't used a single second. So in the second half of this race, if Larson feels, you're kind of in my bubble, I don't like how close you're getting, you're going to see the 1 car turn up the heat and, hovering around that 135.5 on these laps, you're probably going to see a sub 134 in these closing 5 to go.
Well, Jacob Reed just set that a 134.896 last time by. An impressive lap coming from the 3 machine. The only one to get down into the 134 so far. Like you said, Timothy Freeze-Larson very close, as well as Nadia Mel, both in the 135 threes.
I think Reed maybe had an off track, so that's why the telemetry's not showing it. If you get an X, it doesn't count so much towards, it'll count towards your total time, but if you broke those track limits just a little bit, iRacing's not going to score it as a valid lap time for our leaderboard. So not sure exactly the track limitations, like you said, Logan. I'm not familiar with this place really at all, but I can tell you that there's definitely a lot of opportunities to go wide or maybe clip a corner a little bit more than you should and not get a penalty overall, just a penalty on the times. Man, he shot it through there. That is fast.
We might not be familiar with the track itself, but man, it is proving to be a big aspect here on all sorts of driving levels. As you saw in the background there, Nadia Mel got a little sideways coming out of turn 16, but able to correct it up. Loses just a touch of ground to Jacob Reed. Back on the throttle, getting closer now. Reed now within a just a little over 3.5 second margin to Timothy Freeze-Larson. So it'll be interesting if we can get Reed up there battling with Larson, see if he can force a mistake from the number 1. although he still has that 200 seconds of OTS available, if you make a mistake here, I don't know if you can recover with how many laps that we have left. Larson working his way back towards the middle section.
Watching Valerio Tavares get closer and closer to Gabriel Hop. We saw Hop catch up to Gang earlier, but now 1.6 seconds back. And I think for Hop, it's just a matter of there was a couple mistakes there earlier in this race. He's had to use push to pass to get back up there. Tavares is on it as well. 74 seconds left. 7 laps to go. I think Tavares is going to catch him.
The OTS in favor of Hop by about 50 seconds here. So that'll be a game that Tavares will have to play as well, being conservative yet still aggressive with the push to pass available. 74 seconds for him, 126 seconds for Hop. It's going to come down to timing, I believe, Bradley. Jacob Reed down to 67 seconds remaining. 90 seconds for Nadia Mel. Most of the field has used about half of the OTS available. Dylan Baxter in the 11 has elected to bring it down pit road. Looks like getting some damage repaired. That'll put him 2 laps down at the current moment.
There's the last car on the lead lap. It's Tercet. 16 cars still out here on the racetrack. And Jamie Byrne back out on the racetrack in the 8 car, 1 lap down.
Started with 22, rolling right now on lap 16 with 17 active. We'll see if Dylan Baxter can get back out on the track and make it 18. I would say those are good numbers here for a much newer track to the service, Bradley. This one can prove to be tricky if you don't get enough practice time in. Back up at the front of the field, Timothy Freeze Larson out of turn 16. Down the long stretch we go. Cresting 180 miles an hour. Should be closing in on 185 before the braking zone. Right at 185 into the braking zone. All the way down to 46 miles an hour through the corner. Brake bias doing well for the #1 machine. Just behind and still closing that gap is the 3 of Jacob Reed, right at the 3.5 second point. We'll see if Reed can continue to close that ground up and might get up to Timothy Freeze Larson before that checkered flag waves.
And watching here on the average pace, Reed has been about 6-7 tenths faster this lap so far. Larson only about 5 tenths, so they've kind of traded back and forth. It's went stagnant. It was getting down to that 3.5 section. And what I say, Larson probably going to turn up the heat once Reed gets into that bubble, and I think that comfortable zone is 3.5 seconds. That's when Larson says, okay, I'm going to use up some of my stuff to get back ahead of you.
And timing will be the biggest factor here. 150 seconds of difference between Larson and Reed. I would say it's not looking great for Reed as he has a big spin through the sector just behind Timothy Freeze Larson. Able to collect it up, but loses immediately 0.3 of a second on the timing and scoring. Got extremely loose over the curbing here, just like we've seen time and time again. Had to slow it way down. Much straighter than I thought he did. I thought that back end really kicked out on him. Take an onboard look here.
This is
It's
one of
that
those where
left rear tire catching the curbing on the inside.
what a save, though. I mean, we've seen how many people hit that the exact same way and go a complete 180 at the other side.
Facing the wrong direction on the worst part of the track. A big slide coming from the 3. He is putting all of the power down that he can right now.
Yeah. I think if I was on the radio, if I could communicate to Reed right now, you have a podium, and you've shaved down time. You're probably getting frustrated, like, I'm catching Larson, I'm catching him, now I've lost all that ground. But you still have a podium. You're 4.5 ahead of Amel. There's no reason to throw it all away by trying to chase down that one car. Bring it home in second. Live to fight another day.
Big thing to focus on too is the points aspect. You know, the broadcasted race points. Our third place driver in the points, Jansu Foster, obviously not on the field today. So that's a big advantage for Timothy Friese-Larsen going into next week. And even Dennis Branch, Dan Yang, Valerio Tavares, where they're currently running, they can close up that gap a little bit. James Byrne, not on the field today, or yes, on the field today, running P4, so that'll help. But it's going to very much close up that gap. Only 2 points separating Byrne and Larson. So it looks like Larson will have control of the points after this race if we finished right at this exact moment. But it's still going to be very close for that number 2 to be competitive in this championship race.
This battle back here for 8th position between Tamar and I'm gonna try to do this correctly. Bozar, I believe is its pronunciation. The 12 looked left. Now gonna look left again. A little block there. Had the speed there the last time by, just can't get clear of the 19.
This time by for those drivers will be 4 to go. It's a lot more passing opportunity as they're going to continue to duke it out here, coming down into turn 1 side by side, but still with the advantage on the inside line. Vince Tamar able to defend very well here, up 6 positions, doesn't want to let Lazar get around and make it 5. Nice to see some fresh names here in the field as well. And to come out and immediately put on a battle. Some entertainment out there in the mid-pack. Gabriel Hopp and Dan Yang going at it once again. Hopp has caught up. 0.3 of a second separate these two drivers. An OTS advantage to Hopp.
I think Yang may have made a mistake. He had about a 1.5 second lead there a few laps ago. And Hopp able to catch up to him without really using any of that OTS. We're 3/400ths of a second. Striking distance here with 3 laps to go. It's 3.2 seconds for Larson. And based off what we're seeing right now, it looks like Larson might finish this race without even using push to pass.
Well, he's going to use it. The last 2 laps, it will be all out for Timothy Friese-Larsen. He's going to try to drop his best lap time way down low. Last time by in the 134.9. Best lap so far, a 134.877. I would almost expect to see if Larson can put together a clean lap under full OTS. That should be a 133 lap time.
We missed it.
Rather incredible.
We missed it. We'll have to back up just a little bit here. But here's the pass as the 12 of Bazarg is able to get around the 19. Finally got to the outside. And that was that.
Gabriel Hopp is going to challenge Dan Yang just further up the field. He got around momentarily. Yang able to counteract that. Oh, nearly contact from behind. Hopp putting all the pressure on, almost contact with the wall. Cuts over that curbing, and he is on full attack mode here down the backstretch. And gets a better drive off of turn 16, but still in that slipstream. Surprised Hopp is not on the OTS right now. That's a very interesting call. He had an opportunity, but gonna stick with the slipstream to the outside. Yang defends on the inside, no momentum in favor of the 10, tries the crossover. He's going to keep that front wing right there to the inside of the left rear tire. Takes a look to the inside, setting up for turn number 1. Oh man, this battle here is fierce for P5.
2 laps to go. I think now is the time for OTS if you have anything left. And Hopp has the advantage over the 6. I would expect him to use it down that long straightaway this time around.
If he doesn't use it this time around, it'll be full OTS for the white flag for Gabriel Hop. Timothy Freeze-Larson has activated, finally. He has already been on OTS for about 70 seconds here. Hop looking to the outside. Does he have enough time to get around the 6 of Yang? He's got the nose ahead, but Yang's still on the inside, set up nicely for the next corner. He's going to get clear of Hop once again. Hop back to the inside.
I don't know if I want to be side by side through this portion of the racetrack.
Nearly contact.
Nope.
Hop is going to have to go wide. That'll be a slowdown penalty for the 10. Should only be a couple tenths of a second. A great job avoiding any sort of contact. He's going to swerve it back and forth, trying to slow the car down just enough. White flag is out as Timothy Freeze-Larson crosses a line. But the battle has since subsided. Hop now back 1 second to Dan Yang. He has one more opportunity around to try to close that gap. Valerio Tavares, a second behind Hop. Across the line goes the 3 drivers from P5 to P7. The closest battle on the field as we have 14 cars remaining on the track. 13 on the lead lap. Hop trying to close up. He's getting closer, 4/10 of a second.
They're about even now on OTS. Just about even.
They're both going to be activated for the remaining of this lap. The slipstream down the back stretch is where Hop has the best chance. Dan Yang still trying to take evasive maneuvers to break that slipstream.
That's a shallow
Right
entry
back
there.
up to him. This is the section that we saw Hop lose that gap. Not side by side this time.
Yep, set him up for the long straightaway. This is where you got to get him.
Hurdles the curbing. Out of 16, all over. Dan Yang coming down the backstretch for the last time. Timothy Freeze-Larson crosses the line and takes home the win. But we're going to keep our eyes right here.
Oh,
to
contact.
The outside. Contact made by Yang and Hop. Hop has the advantage, but stuck on the outside. The braking zone, and he goes around. The battle comes to an end. Valerio Tavares through on the inside. Dan Yang will hold on to P5. Valerio Tavares up to P6. Your race winner, Timothy Freeze-Larson, 22 laps led. Did not look back whatsoever. Jacob Reed and Nadia Mel will round out our podium finishers with James Byrne between all of the action in P4. A 1:33.844 on the last lap for Timothy Freeze-Larson. I told you we'd see at least one. Nadia Mel almost got there with a 1:34.043. What an intense battle on the last lap. A shame to see Gabriel Hop get spun around there. Just a little bit too hard on the brakes, but what an attempt that was. We'll take it back here on the VSPEED Instant Replay to have one more look at it.
And he set up this portion that he got out of the good exit there, and that contact right there. Just a little bit of damage, I think, on both these cars, and maybe the 10 had a steering issue. I'm not sure.
I think he's really just trying to dive it down into that corner and a little too hard on the brakes. So we have an onboard look here with Hop. Yeah, that's just rear lock up there.
OTS
the tire
maybe being
wear,
on.
the tire wear, the higher speed with the OTS. A lot of factors coming into play that Hop might not have been entirely prepared for, diving down into that corner with a couple more mile-an-hour worth of speed. But again, just a great attempt. Way to put on a show on the white flag. what do you say we run through our race results here? It looks like we've got one driver already in the waiting room, our race winner, Timothy Fries Larson. We'll have a word with him here shortly. Jacob Reed with a solid outing today. Got down to that 3.5 second mark, but finishes 6.223 behind Timothy Fries Larson for P2. Nadia Mel in the 7, rounding out our podium finishers, with James Byrne taking home P4, up 1 spot from where he started. Dan Yang able to collect 5 up to a top 5 finish. Valerio Tavares with the final pass there, finishing out where he started through the inside of Gabriel Hopp, spinning in turn 17. Hopp taking home P7 on the afternoon. Bazaar in the 12, taking home P8. Nice to see a new name up in the top 10 with the battle that he had with Vince Tamar, taking home P9, and Michael Dodd rounding out our top 10.
You have 11th. Sorry about that. I was trying to get myself sorted out here. Is Ali Gochman maybe? It's going to finish in the 11th position. Sandro Cerilius going to start or finish in 12th position. Kristen Jasper going to come home in 13th, 14th. Jamie Byrne. Joan Petrit Bodie going to finish in 15th position. And you have Leonardo Tercet going to finish 16th. Craig Christensen going to finish out 17th position. Dylan Baxter in the 11. A lot of tough luck there for the 11 car here tonight. Dennis Branch, who was in the chat there a moment ago. Benjamin David rounding out the top 20. 2 more cars to talk about here with 21 in the 16th. 16 car. Emmanuel going to finish 21st. 22nd. Acura early exit. I don't even believe really got a chance to race this race. Very early exit here on lap 1.
Very early indeed. And, you know, we saw in the chat, or at least I saw in the chat of the race itself, a couple of these drivers out here for the first time at Miami International Autodrome. So a very challenging track, to say the least. But one driver that was able to master it today, of course, our race winner, Timothy Fries Larson. We'll drag him up here into the broadcast booth and have a word with him. Timothy Fries Larson. Well, first of all, congratulations, but you got Logan and Bradley up here in the VSPEED booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, hi guys. I can hear you.
Well, you started on the pole, you led all the laps, and you set the fastest lap. There wasn't too much of a challenge for you here, but let's talk about that race start. What was the advantage here for you to just stay out in front the entire time? It looked like you got a phenomenal go at the drop of the green flag here and just never looked back from there. I think it was by turn 6, you already had a 1.5-second lead over the field.
Oh yeah, the launches, at least for me, have been really good this week. I think it's because of the insane wind speeds of like 30 kilometers an hour. So yeah, that made the driving challenging as well. But yeah, back to the start. Yeah, I saw that Jacob didn't get too good of a start and had to fight with the drivers around him, and that led all of them to lose a lot of time. And yeah, I got well over a second by the end of the first lap.
Now we saw Jacob Reed. He was putting down some very fast lap times, maybe a couple minor mistakes coming from you throughout the course of the race, and he got down to about 3.5 seconds. However, we've come to know that you hold on to that OTS for as long as you possibly can until you're forced to use it or you're within the last 2 seconds or 200 seconds of the race. Then you activate it just to set that fastest lap. Was there any moment in time where you were watching that relative screen and that number coming down that you thought maybe he'd get up there and challenge you a little bit?
And no, not really. It was annoying for sure to see that gap come down, but I knew that since we both had the same total amount of push to pass to use, then since he used it early and gained early, because I saved up mine and used it later, I would gain all the time back, and that's what happened.
That's kind of the consensus that Bradley and I came to up here in the booth. Bradley, did you have anything for our race winner?
I mean, just kudos to you. I don't know how you're doing it, man, but keep doing what you're doing. You go out there and get a big lead and just maintain it. Makes for a pretty easy day. And, as far as dominant performances, congratulations. This is probably even better than the last one.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, the setup felt good. I created entirely myself for first, or not first time, but almost first time. Anyways, yeah, the setup felt good. The wind was tricky, especially in the first sector. It was really easy to kind of lose the rear or understeer a lot. But yeah, managed to adapt to that and put in some decent laps and win the race.
Well, some even better news for you. This will put you in control of the point standings for the broadcasted races. James Byrne came in 2 points ahead of you. Of course, finishing in P4, you're going to have that advantage, but not by much. So we will see what happens next week when we get everybody back out on track. But for today's performance, Timothy Freeze Larson, who do you have to say thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, it's gonna be the same as, I don't know how many times at this point. The team, Hyperion Racing, my family, especially my dad and my grandparents who are visiting this weekend. And then to any of my friends watching, and to you guys at VSPEED and Sim Racing Nation for making all this possible.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations once again. We will catch up with you next week, Timothy.
Yeah, see you then.
Well, Bradley, it doesn't look like we have our two other podium finishers, Jacob Reed or Nadia Mel, electing to join us for a post-race interview here today. So let's, I guess, start the closing out of this race. What were your thoughts on today's event here at Miami?
Well, getting new to this track, I just bought it, half an hour ago, so I was kind of in for learning this place and seeing the technical portions of the racetrack, those tight left and right hand turns and hitting that curb where it seemed like that was the preferred line. It kind of messed with my mind to see drivers driving straight over top of that to gain an advantage, but somebody that did it better than everyone else, Timothy Freeze Larson, he's been showing why he's the fastest and the highest I rating. Impressive run, again, dominant performance, got out to an early lead, maintained it, and with keeping that OTS all the way to the end, ran the fastest lap of the race with a 1:33.844. He is bad fast, and I think we need to get the word out, Logan. We need to get these guys out here with these 10,000 I ratings into this Saturday afternoon broadcasted race. Of course, you can go to simracingnation.com to check out all the details on that. If you'd like to make a donation, you can use the link in the description below to keep this race live all season long. This is season 1 of 2026, already starting off great for Larson, and I think we're changing on the broadcasted points there with the points lead to the 1.
I believe that we are just a slight advantage going to Timothy Freeze Larson going into next week at Interlagos. We're going to make our way down to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and see what these drivers can accomplish down there. But for today, we hope you enjoyed the broadcast. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribe so you never miss another one of these Super Formula B Open Series races every Saturday here, presented by Graham Crackers Racing, Race Ready 3D, and of course, Sim Racing Nation. It's been a fantastic Saturday to spend with you here, but we're going to get out of here, and we'll catch up with you in Brazil next week. I've been your host, Logan Threlkeld. Of course, beside me, Bradley Cooper, with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. We appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend.